People who have had sex with someone with a disability of some sorts. What was different about that experience? First girlfriend had Tourette's. Not the cursing kind but the twitching kind. I dated a girl who was born with cloaca. At birth the vagina, urethra and anus all fused into one hole. When the doctors created her vagina and anus they used some very sensitive tissue and she could climax every possible sexual way like 20 times a night. Additional, she was a very horny person. Although some complications in her daily life, her perseverance to not let her disability get in the way of her life astonished me. Oh man, I'm late to the party, but this is one of my favorite NSFW stories about my own life, so I have to share. While I was at university, for a few months I dated a girl with a number of health issues. She'd been born really underweight, suffered from bad joints, fibromyalgia, an inverted uterus and a host of other issues. Sex was kinda complicated but she was fun and attractive and we made it work. She also lost her right eye due to an infection when she was a child, leaving her partially sighted with a glass eye. Once, while we were getting into it doggy style, on one particularly vigorous thrust from me, said glass eye flew out of her eye, hitting the headboard with an audible ting. I stopped, uncertain of what had happened, only for her to turn around with one eye missing and burst out laughing when I fell back in surprise. She was pretty cool. We're still friends. To this date she says that's never happened with anyone else. A friend of mine was with a girl with only one leg. He said she was totally normal but couldn't be on top because of balance. He later scooted his bed up against the wall. Dated a girl who was extremely hard of hearing. Something like 10% hearing in one ear and 30% in the other. The tiny bones in her ears were damaged during her birth by an overzealous doctor with forceps. Sex was mostly normal, except her bad ear was like a free orgasm button. All it took was kissing her on her bad ear, a part of her body she was probably extremely self-conscious about. Other than that, if her hearing aids were out, say in the shower, she'd be twice as loud as a full hearing girl without realizing it. It had its benefits and drawbacks. Hey lil mama, lem whisper in your ear. Edit. Thanks for the gold, kind stranger. I'm deaf. With a cochlear implant. It used to be an implant that was behind the ear, but my current processor isn't. I usually clip it to my shirt on a day-to-day basis. But if I want to hear my wife while we're doing the deed, gotta keep my shirt on. It wasn't really a big deal for a while, but after a few years of always having sex with a shirt on, it gets old. I'm upgrading my processor in 2019 and I'm switching back to a behind the ear processor strictly so I can hear my wife while I'm completely naked. I dated a girl with cerebral palsy, affecting her right side. She doesn't use her right side for hand shandies, but more than made up for it with effort from the left. After the first couple of nights over, I stopped noticing. She could also suck a golf ball through a garden hose. And subsequently we've been married for 5 years now. Suck a golf ball through a garden hose. Man, I'd be worried about her sucking your testicles out your pee hole. I'd like to sincerely thank OP for trusting Reddit to answer her question without a serious tag, because these comments have been some of the best I've seen in a long time. A near-deaf girl I dated often forgot about the volume of her voice. I couldn't look the neighbors in the eye after that. I am a nurse and was taking care of a lady with a colostomy. I walked in one night and her husband was having only what I can call pies. Penis and stoma, what the opening from your abdomen that empties your bowels into the colostomy bag is called. Sex with her. Was horrified. But later googled it and stoma love is a fetish all in itself. This was several years ago and still hear about it from co-workers. Of all the things I've learned on this comment section tonight, this is the one I regret, cause now I have to live with this knowledge. My ex-wife had a stroke and lost a lot of her function on her left side. She went through physical therapy but never lost her sex drive. Some positions were difficult but found different positions that worked. I dated someone with an inoperable brain tumor once. We hooked up for the first time drunk after a Halloween party and were full on going at it until she had a major tonic seizure. Unfortunately, she had failed to mention to me that she had epilepsy and I freaked out thinking something was horribly wrong. When she finally came to, she explained that it rarely happened during sex and was actually a very good thing. So I got to check off orgasm-induced seizure from my bucket list. One time my ex-wife, who had regular seizures, had said hit me in the face, so I reeled back and slapped the shit out of her. Later I found out she had said it's in my face, as in her seizure had spread to her face. We had a laugh about it later, but it was a sticking point for a while that I'd slapped her during a seizure. I hooked up with a girl who was missing an eye. Didn't ask why. Sorry. Super cute girl and she wore a very well made leather eye patch. You ever FCK a pirate? It's rad. Edit. Holy shit. Y'all. This is now by far and away my most upvoted comment. First, thanks whomever gave me silver. It's my first and I have no idea what it means. Second, no, I didn't stick it in her eye hole, nor did I have any desire to. However, it seems I may be in the minority there. Both my girlfriend and I are pretty badly asthmatic, so like sometimes after we finish we both go straight for the inhalers. My wife has cerebral palsy. She's pretty normal except for her legs can't separate much. It isn't an issue except when I try to go down on her and she almost suffocated me. You are my new Marvel superhero. The muffler. My ex-BF was paralyzed. His dick worked and he didn't wear diapers, just for your information. IDKY, I am imagining a centaur character except half squid. Whoa. Something I can actually really relate to and post about. My fiancée wears a prosthetic on her left leg, as she was born with an underdeveloped leg. Not a concern at all in my view. She's the single most delightful woman I've ever met. And in bed she's the best lover I've ever had. An extremely cool byproduct of how her body has developed is that she has by and far the best ass I've ever had the blessing to enjoy. As because she doesn't walk normally, a hip-driven slightly sideways gait, both of her sides need to work that little bit harder than most people do. Hence, booty of a goddess. She also has a teeny tiny little baby foot, which I think is cute as hell. Update. I didn't expect such a huge response. Thanks for the silver. And the comments made me laugh a lot. I FK'd a guy with type 1 diabetes once. His blood sugar dropped super low during the act and he was feeling it. His monitor alarms were going off and everything. We had to stop and go out to eat right away. At least take me to dinner first. His deviated septum meant I had to keep switching sides to avoid the nose whistle. Doot doot. I had an ex who had his leg amputated above the knee. More room to reach my clit during sex for orgasms. Otherwise pretty much the same. He's gonna hate me for posting this. But my so is a below the knee amputee. Missionary is tilted slightly to the left. If it's anywhere but a bed he has to keep his leg on. But damn, he's so SI with his prosthetic on and nothing else. Edit. I love you guys. Yes, I showed him this and he was slightly embarrassed, but he's glad that people think that's hot and more importantly that I do. My BF has muscle weakness issues. Just means some positions don't work out for him. And he can't pick me up usually. Not a huge deal though. Edit. Also, we'll be going at it and he'll suddenly seize up and fall over in pain for a minute while his muscles cramp up. It always makes me a little concerned when he just stops and flops over. He also has Tourette's. And one time let out a loud screech in the middle of getting busy. Had a good laugh over it. Killed the mood though. Comma be me. Comma pull hot normie. Comma get SX. Comma re halfway through. I'm a disabled guy and I've never had any complaints when it comes to performance. The tricky part is sustaining a relationship while accounting for additional needs. Long term it can get stressful and cause the relationship to break down. Ex-boyfriend of mine had a seizure as a baby and lost all use of his left arm. And it atrophied. Didn't bother me at all. Definitely didn't affect his performance either. Though I don't remember ever have SX missionary. He also worked as a landscaper. And did more with one arm than I do with both of mine. Good person. But had anger issues. My so has PTSD pretty bad. Some things can really trigger her. Certain sensations especially. So I have to shave, and if we're doing more serious things it's good to have lights on so she has a sense of space. Sometimes I have to stop and comfort her until she stops dissociating. But I don't mind. Over time I've learned what triggers it so it doesn't happen much anymore. I don't know if this counts, but I dated a girl older than me who had some sickness that made her bones brittle. Also she had some minor autism. When it came to SX you had to be very gentle to not break her. Was an interesting experience when you were a young ego man. XGF has severe narcolepsy. For once. I wasn't the reason a woman fell asleep during SX. Also after we broke up I got to make jokes about how for the past year I only slept with women who were passed out from GHB. Spoiler. It's a narcolepsy treatment that she had to take every night. No. I didn't do stuff to her while she was KO'd, except for roll her over so she didn't suffocate. I have partial paralysis in my legs after an injury. I can't think my way into being turned on. I need to be touched because it's all physical. Hasn't been problem with both the men and women I've been with. Meals on wheels. My first serious relationship was with a girl who was a type 1 diabetic for about a year. Whenever we had SX I had to be careful not to hit her insulin sites, which was sometimes difficult because they moved around her body and she liked it very rough. Before SX she would just tell me something like my site is on my ass so try not to hit it. And I'd stay clear of it. During my first few times having SX outside of that relationship I would sometimes think I wonder where her site is so I can avoid it before slapping myself for being stupid. She was blind. A lot more OS and oops S. Also, I'm blind. Now with someone sighted. And from what I'm told the only difference is I'm a lot more interested in feeling rather than seeing. And a lot more attentive as to what gets the good reactions out of her. Had a fling with a girl in college with no arm below the left elbow. She was hot and awesome. The one thing she did bring to the table was she would nub my taint during handjobs blowjobs. It was as hot and awesome as you think. Nub my taint. I've had SX with a girl that had minor multiple sclerosis. It meant that occasionally she'd lose control of her legs. Absolutely wild. She'd be on top. Then suddenly fall flat on her face. Took all my strength not to crack up. Any position basically. Think about the female losing control of her legs suddenly. Probably the most interesting SX I've had to date. Like having SX with a jack in a box. I'm disabled and have fainted during SX due to a heart condition. Damn. I dated a deaf guy. I learned sign language. We broke up in the middle of our first fight. It just was so frustrating communicating with him because I was mediocre at sign language and also because both of us were not great at communicating our feelings and ideas. The middle finger's pretty universal. I had a brief relationship with a dwarf. I expected the SX to be awkward because I'm 6 feet 2, but it was actually very natural because her torso was typically sized and everything lined up like it should. Something that was different was that I could easily lift her for an extended time so we could do some stuff I can't really pull off with full-sized girls. It was a lot of fun. This thread has been everything I wanted and more. Amputees. Dwarfs. It's got everything. A girl I dated has a brachial plexus injury from birth, nerve damage that rendered her right arm mostly paralyzed. The SX was 10/10 girl was a freak. The only thing was that every once in a while her right arm would stiffen up and stick straight out in front of her and I would have to awkwardly move it out of the way while not trying to break the mood. Edited. Once in a while. Was very late after a 16-hour work day when I posted. So. You were not the only one with a stiffy? Edit. Well then. This blew up. Thanks for gold. Stranger. So like. A Nazi salute. IFK'd a girl with a speech impediment. She couldn't pronounce her R's among some other abnormalities. When she started talking dirty it took all I had to not laugh. OOY cat OOFCKY wetted. I'm a quadriplegic and I just happen to masturbate quite often, so I like to think that gives me both perspectives. Due to limited feeling in my lower 2/3, it's almost like I'm giving another dude a hand job when I jerk off. But then again, my hands also have limited feeling, so it also feels like someone else is jerking me off. Weird way to describe it, but there ya go. Try wrapping your mind around that. She was an anorexic. She exercised like crazy to work off calories. So she was strong and enjoyed marathon sessions, as she assumed there was good calorie burning. She was awesome in so many ways. She was extremely intelligent, creative, and fun. However, when it came to food, shopping, etc., it was like a switch was turned and she was irrational, paranoid, and just straight up terrified. In that state, she could lash out in some pretty cutting and cruel ways. That was our break in the end. But I loved her nonetheless. Hope she's doing better wherever she is now. Not me. But my friend is dating a girl and thought the first time they had sex he was really rocking her world. Heavy breathing and gasping. Until she shoves him off and scrambles for her inhaler. Apparently she's heavily asthmatic. The next day she abruptly goes motionless. Her head lolls back. And her eyes close. He thought she was dying of some asthma complication. Turns out she's also narcoleptic. She's since got better meds for both issues. Although I heard she's dyslexic too. Her genes must be interesting. Edit. I'm not a geneticist. I was just saying it's kind of odd for one person to have those things at once. Till genetics aren't that critical in these situations. Also, I don't know the exact specifics of her conditions. This is just what she told me in casual conversation. Her DNA probably looks like a ransom note. Yeah. I just used this one for the funny sex question, but hey. I had a FWB in college who was blind. I was on top and his guide dog started growling. He must think you're hurting me. So he started patting me on the head. Good Lucinda. Nice Lucinda. Got worse. So we decided to go doggy style and the dog was okay with that. My friend of years was extremely autistic and wasn't ever interested in romance in the least. But one day out of the blue he asked me if I could have sex with him to show him what it was like and to see if he would even enjoy it. Honestly did it half out of curiosity myself. But I think I messed up somehow. Now he's like a sex crazed fiend who messages all our friends for nudes and sex. It's been 6 years but I still feel bad. This thread makes me feel like I'm at a bar, listening to the best stories ever told. Don't know if this counts since it's me. But I'm on the autism spectrum, Asperger's, with a few other issues as well, and the medications I take completely kill my sex drive. I didn't think it would affect me as much as it has. My boyfriend insists that it's okay that we hardly ever have sex. Before it was just that I wasn't in the mood ever. But if we tried I could get into it. Now it's like I can't feel anything. Not like I'm numb. But like I just don't feel aroused at all during anything. It's really upsetting if I'm being honest. But if I don't take my meds I'm a total mess. It really sucks, pun intended, since giving blowjobs is all I'm good for in the bedroom now. Wife had a stroke a couple years ago. She has a good bit of lingering disability from it. I'll not go into what all there is. She decided about a year or so after the event that she wanted to try sex. I think more for me than her. I argued with her about it and really wasn't into it to begin with. But I did eventually make the attempt. And I fully wish I hadn't. Just felt wrong. She felt wrong. I didn't finish and she never even started. We have not discussed sex since then. We both just know it's not in the cards for us anymore. And for context I'm 41 and she is 44. Edit. Wow, this really took off lol. Thank you to all the well wishes and for all the suggestions, good and bad. Reading the comments both made me laugh, tear up, and think. So all in all a really good thread, people. Thanks also for the gold and silver. I've never had either before. That is heartbreaking, my man. I really hope both of you can find some type of compromise. Due to their blindness, they could not see how ugly I am, and they let me have the sex with them. Blind chick here. I'm positive you have your own brand of beauty handsomeness. Close bracket. I know this thread is about sex with someone with a disability. But even when looking for one night stands, blind people see your heart.